Welcome back. If you needed any more evidence that civility in our politics has, well, deteriorated, just take a look at today alone. A day where the President of the United States took to Twitter to call a porn actress horseface. A senator and potential 2020 rival, Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas. Meanwhile, Nebraska Republican Senator Ben Sasse is out with a new book, Them, Why We Hate Each Other and How to Heal. Sasse argues that Americans are more connected than ever thanks to technology. We're also more lonely and unfulfilled. Part of the point I was making about the loss of the Sears catalog. And that loss of community is fueling the polarization in our politics. He writes in his book, we are in a period of unprecedented upheaval. Community is collapsing, anxiety is building, and we're distracting ourselves with artificial political hatreds. That can't endure. And if it does, America won't. Senator Ben Sasse joins me now. Senator, I don't know what you could be writing about these days. You just take a look at today's headlines, and while we'll joke in our staff meeting, oh, it just is another, we'll call it Tuesday, it to me is what a lot of people look to you as the antidote for. And I guess what I'm curious about is, why are you a lonelier voice out there than what I think you should be?
Well, first, thanks for having me on. And your Sears catalog segment is an interesting setup for this, right?
Yeah.
So people shouldn't be looking to me for a solution to this because the solutions are going to have to come from neighborhoods all across this great nation of 320 million people. Political polarization, political tribalism is amping right now because the good tribes, the natural tribes, the normal traditional tribes by which humans have found rootedness, they're all in collapse. And it's a strange thing because the digital revolution is great. I'm sort of a tech nerd at one level, and I think the digital revolution is going to produce more total economic output than the world's ever known, but it's uprooting us from place. Family structures make you happy. Deep friendship makes you happy. Shared vocation and coworkers make you happy. Local worshiping communities make you happy. But it turns out as technology undermines all of those things, we're less and less connected to rootedness, and we have to learn new habits for that. And so I think political tribalism is mostly a symptom of a problem, not the actual problem. Political tribalism is filling a void as people feel less connected to their neighbors, and that actually is correlated with happiness, not your political tribe.
What do you make historically of the 19th century? Because this is something that many media historians will say to me, and they'll say, you know what? We were pretty polarized in the 19th century. It took a civil war. We actually had a hot civil war. You had, part of it was the expansion of the printing press to every corner, and people could just print anything. Sound familiar to where we are today? Yeah. And it created these, you had tribal newspapers at the time, but we got through that.
True.
How would you explain how we got through that period and got to a better place? Because my guess is the answer is probably similar to today.
It's a great question, Chuck, and thank you for letting me go full nerd. I didn't know we were going to get to do this. So I want to be clear, them is at least 50% constructive. It's about how we solve this, why you want to take your smartphone off your dinner table so you don't send all the wrong signals to your kids, that you don't actually, pardon me, want to be there rooted with them. So them is 50% constructive. But at the analytical piece, I actually spend a lot of time on what you're talking about, the last 200 years of media history. It is true that the kind of yellow journalism phase of a lot of the 19th century was tribal press, but because it was local, what ended up happening is we didn't have national media at that time. What ended up happening is you had a whole bunch of bigotry against people who weren't from your place, but in your place you thought people were a part of the same tribe, so you felt like there was a we were in it locally together. Again, lots of broken stuff about that phase in history. But what ended up happening with the rise of national media in kind of the middle third of this century is we ended up with a bunch of shared American facts, and we're now going back to a phase where you can have different facts depending on your ideology. The problem is you're not connected to place anymore. So on social media, you often only hear from people who only believe the exact same things you do, and you can say everybody else are the bad guys. Let's find good versus evil against people we disagree with in politics, but you don't actually have that at a local level. So you have a massive decline of local connection and local friendship.
The biggest thing seems to be the local newspaper. I'm curious, how many of your neighbors still get the Lincoln Journal-Star delivered to them? Does the Lincoln Journal-Star even deliver every day?
They still do. And the Omaha World Herald are our two big dailies in Nebraska. We've got about 13 or 14 dailies in the state. I live an hour outside Omaha in a little town called Fremont, 25,000 person farm town. We still have a daily as well. But Husker sports coverage is actually the main reason people subscribe to the Omaha World Herald. And I don't have the exact numbers, but when I graduated high school in 1990, I think about 35% of Nebraska households subscribed to the World Herald. Today, I think it's only about 10 to 15% of Nebraska households. So the decline of local journalism does say something about the decline of local we. And I named this book Them because we need to recover a we. And most of that we isn't going to be found in politics. It's going to be found in your neighborhood.
I understand that, but political leaders have to be role models. And this president is a role model, but not necessarily one that I'm guessing you would want your kids or my kids to follow when it comes to how to deal with people you disagree with, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, you don't call women horseface. I mean, that's not the right move, right? I mean, that's not the way men act. So there's a lot that should be done differently in our national political discourse. But Donald Trump can't solve this problem because Donald Trump didn't create this problem. Politics can't solve this problem because politics didn't create this problem. Politics are important, but politics should be about coming up with a cost-effective infrastructure bill. Politics shouldn't be the place where we look to find good and evil and grand meaning. And one of the reasons
politics is rewarding it. But our politics is rewarding it. That's what I think is the incentive structure. I'm with you, but the incentive structure tells you something else, does it not?
Yeah, you're right. Right now, anti-tribe, the things we're against, again, why I named it them, the reason this is happening in politics is because there's not enough shared tribe about the stuff you're for. We know what makes people happy. Like, we know this philosophically and theologically, but now we know it in sociology, too. You're happy if you have a tight nuclear family. You're happy if you have 3 or 4 deep, long-term, enduring friendships. You're happy if you have meaningful work, if you have coworkers. You're happy if you have a local worshiping community. The digital revolution is undermining all those things. We have half as many friends in America as we did 27 years ago in the literature. We had 3.2 friends per American in 1990, 1.8 friends today. The consequences of that are pretty dramatic, and a lot of lonely people are looking to Washington to solve their problem, or they're looking to social media to find a tribe about who they can at least have the common experience of hating together. That's not going to fulfill you. And so while Washington needs to do a better job, and you're right about your role models point, we also need Americans to recognize we're going to build new habits for rootedness, even though technology is enabling us to be rootless. Your late 19th century analog fits well. Urbanization, industrialization had a big lonely moment that's a lot like our lonely moment now. We'll get through it, but we're going to get through it with new habits.
But, Senator, Facebook tells me I have so many more friends than you just said. Anyway, I say that rhetorically. We know where we're headed. I wish I had more. Go ahead.
So do I. Let's do it again.
I'd like to do that and maybe see on my podcast where we have an even longer conversation about this. Senator Ben Sasse, good luck with the book. It's an important read. I hope people take the time to do it. Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Meet the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.